Welcome to my home.
You mean my home?
Okay, it's neither of our homes.
But it is our podcast.
Glitter and gay.
Coming your way.
So thanks for tuning in today. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Tyler.
My name is Tyler, and I'm an alcoholic.
Wow, Tyler. I was not prepared for that introduction.
You know, I thought that I should go for it. You know, we knew that we wanted to talk about our journeys with drinking. You know, I have a very, very long history of addiction, from food to cigarettes to alcohol. And I think I finally got it under control right before drugs got their grip. Drugs are part of my story. Never spirally with drugs like I was with everything else. Or around the clock, I should say, with them like I was with everything else. But I'm sure I was, you know, it's a game of whack-a-mole sometimes. And I think we should start by saying that we talked offline, that we were both ready to have this conversation. One of the reasons I am sober is because of a post that you did years ago where you told everybody that you had not been drinking. And I remember thinking, I was like, Glennda Baker doesn't drink. And I was drinking at the time. That was like when it was at its worst for me. And I remember reading your story and being like, that kind of sounds like me. You know, that sounds like some of the issues I'm having. And it was the first drop of awareness that started to plant that seed of like, maybe I'm going to have to stop this too. So I would love to know, were you always a drinker?
Always.
Always.
I say always. Sometimes it was more than others. You know, I think the first time that I remember ever like getting drunk was with my friend. And we got into my mom's liquor cabinet.
Were you like a teenager?
Yeah, I was a teenager. My mom was at bingo. I was with my little friend at home, and we got into the liquor and passed out in the living room floor, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we drank from that moment forward. I mean, I remember drinking, and you know, and I was the awkward girl in high school, and you know, I could buy the liquor because I looked older than everybody else. So I would go to Pitch and Putt. I mean, it was quite a business for me. On Friday night, I would go. I'd buy 4 cases of beer. I'd buy a couple bottles of wine. I'd buy this 1 bottle of peach schnapps for the senator's daughter, and I'd sell it out of the trunk of my car. So, I mean, not only was I drinking a lot, but I was selling a lot.
Okay. She was always a businesswoman.
Always a business person. And I mean, you know, I would buy a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, PBR, $2.50 for a 6-pack, and I'd sell it for $3 a can.
Atta girl.
I mean, I was making a truckload of money. But I mean, always. I always had the liquor at the parties. You know, it always made me feel very cool. I'm never ever, still to this day, I'm never very comfortable in unfamiliar, you know, situations.
That's been the hardest part of sobriety for me.
Yeah.
Just having to go there as myself. I'm like, shit.
Well, and, you know, there's nothing to take the edge off. And, you know, what if I don't know anybody? And what if I'm not comfortable there? And what if I'm not as pretty? And what if I'm not as young? And, you know, what if my dress isn't the best? And, you know, how are they going to look at me? And am I the only real estate agent? Or is the real estate agent that sells more than me is going to be there? You know, so I'm walking into an unfamiliar, you know, surroundings, environment. So it made me comfortable. It made me cool. And then later in life, and maybe earlier as well, it helped me cope, you know, with my very suburban existence. And
did anybody ever say like, oh, even make references to the fact that you were a drinker?
No.
Did you ever feel like maybe I drink more than my friends?
do you know, I went out with this one guy and he said, "You do drink a lot."
Mm-hmm.
And I just laughed. I wasn't even thinking. Like, I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever." And I didn't even enter my mind that, hey, lady, you drink a lot.
Right.
Never occurred to me. I remember I was having a party at my house and I drank so much that I got sick and I threw up in front of somebody. And I was like, "Oh my God," I was mortified. And that was bad. And and my kids were there.
Mm.
Um, and my kids had seen me drunk. My kids had seen me hungover. And that was tough for me. That was very difficult for me.
How, at this point, what did your drinking look like? Was it the moment you woke up? Was it just in the
No.
evenings?
Oh, no,
Or
no, 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 no. So I went through different stages of drinking. I went through where I would only drink at night. I went through when I would drink at lunch, and then I would drink at cocktails, and then I would drink at dinner. And then I dated this guy, and oh my God, we'd go to the fanciest restaurants, and he'd order the most expensive wine. And I dated this guy, and his family started with Bloody Marys, and then did, wine at lunch, and then cocktail hour. I mean, it was more of like it was more of like I was around it, and I
mm-hmm.
wanted to fit in. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be a part of it, and I was so fancy, drinking my wine, and it was not anything I had ever like. I never really thought about it being a problem. And I was drinking a lot. And we were at the Hawks game. And I fell down the stairs.
Mm.
And then we were at the Billy Joel concert. And I fell down. And that was in March of 2015. The Billy Joel concert, March of 2015, was really like, wow, I embarrassed myself. And a girl on my tennis team had seen me. And when I fell at the Hawks game, a client had seen me. And I knew it was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was out of control. And I was scrolling through Facebook the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and my girlfriend JoJo posted a 7 years of sobriety. And I didn't know her well. I just knew her through Tom Ferry.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the phone and I called her and I said, "Hey, I noticed that you're 7 years sober. What made you do that? How's that going for you?" She says, "Great." And I said, "Really? Okay." 3-minute conversation. That was it. I poured the glass of wine out into the sink. I have these gorgeous Hungarian hand-cut crystal glasses. They're fabulous. Set it down by the sink, poured myself into bed, woke up at 2:00 in the morning, night sweats. Same thing as always.
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking a bottle or two a night,
Mm-hmm.
every night.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, got some water, went to the bathroom, got back in bed. Sunday morning, I woke up, my mother's birthday. It was literally like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I never drank another drop from that day forward. That was November 29th, 2015.
Wow.
Not one more drop.
So my official sobriety date is November 20th of
Really?
2020. April 15th of 2020 was the last time I had a sip of alcohol. I was still dabbling in other things, and then decided to live a fully sober life November 20th. So I love that we're
Close.
we're close in sobriety birthdays.
Yeah.
I have. It's interesting. Our poisons were definitely the same. I don't know if you had this experience. There was definitely a progression for me. For my 20s, I was actually not much of a drinker at all. Food, I numbed out with food every night. I would come home. I lived in isolation, and I would just like binge all night long, and like true depression. Just like didn't have any friends, wasn't dating. My weight had spiraled out of control. I had no self confidence. Part of the reason that I went on the management side of real estate for my 20s was because I was like, I didn't want any of my clients to see me. I was the heaviest I had ever been. And, when I couldn't numb out enough with food, weed became a big part of the story. And I was smoking weed all night and eating all night. And then, working and smoking cigarettes all day at the real estate office, and then walking home and binging in isolation all night. And that was the cycle. I did that for, I would say, 8 years straight.
Wow.
And alcohol, I was the kind of person who had like a glass of wine here and there in my 20s. And then when I lost weight and decided it was time for me to have a social life, to be like out and about, I was just, I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure out how to exist in the world. And, I'd always kind of overcompensated with my personality. I'd always like, everything's a joke. I'm the funny, over the top, joyous, extra large homosexual in every way possible. And while there was a bit of that, we talk about on this, we have the volume up on our personality, but when you're like living with the volume up, you go deaf inside.
Yeah.
And I was in that space and going out, getting attention for the first time from people, having people hit on me. It made me so nervous and also angry. It was just like, I was like, you didn't like me when I was fat. And they were like, we didn't know you then.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just know you wouldn't have.
Right.
And the only way I could relax into it was with a few drinks. And then it was like my superhero cape was on.
Oh yeah.
I was the life of the party.
Me too.
I was the funny one in the room.
So cool.
Like I could flirt with anybody.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for.
Oh yeah.
Like this is what the life is.
Oh yeah. Good time, Glennda.
Yeah. And I don't know if I was addicted to the alcohol, the validation, the attention,
all of the above.
But I mean, it was the perfect cocktail to bring me to my knees.
Yeah.
And really teach me what I needed to know about life. And it started with just weekends, and then it turned into every night because I just needed to go out and get that dopamine fix of attention and laughs and, sometimes a one-night stand, oftentimes a one-night stand. And it was just like all these things, were finally happening for me. And I was like, I remember feeling like I've arrived. I was like, here I am, world. And, and then I also started to get kind of like these positive rewards. My business started to do really well. I was meeting a lot of people out and about, and I kind of was somehow holding it all together at the time.
Yes.
And I started taking clients out to nice lunches.
Oh yeah.
And drinking at the lunches.
Right.
And then going back to work, and I was like, oh, if I go on a listing pitch with a couple of glasses of wine in me, I was like, I'm kind of fun on a listing pitch. I was like, look at this.
I got so much confidence.
Totally. And and then I would leave that and go to a happy hour because real estate agents, we love to drink.
Right.
It is part of the culture of our business.
Absolutely.
And then it was like it was like a small drip, and then it was like all of a sudden the bucket filled up overnight.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm drinking at lunch, I'm drinking at happy hour, I'm drinking at dinner, I'm going to the bar after dinner, and I'm going to home and having a few more to like knock me out.
Oh yeah.
And I have this great life coach that I've worked with, before I was with Tom Ferry, and she's helped me a ton with my business, but she's around mindset and I remember she was bringing up, she was like, a lot of your stories revolve around drinking, unapologetically. I was like, out last night. I was like, I met this boy, and I was like, and I remember feeling insecure, and I wanted to work on that, and she was like, out drinking again, huh? With another stranger, huh? She was picking up a different side of the story than I was trying to deliver. And I remember she started kind of like holding up the mirror a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was not ready to look in that mirror. And I remember I was almost like angry at her. And one day she had asked me, so I did start to have an awareness. I was, and I can't remember exactly what that moment was, but I do remember quitting was never on my radar. I
No.
was like, oh, I just
Uh-uh.
I gotta get back to where I was a year or two
Oh yeah,
ago.
I'm just gonna have 2 glasses of wine.
Oh yeah.
I'm just it's all good. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna go out. I'm gonna have 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah, I'm gonna regulate this.
I'm gonna regulate it. I'm only gonna drink on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only gonna drink on the weekend. I've got it
Mm-hmm.
under control, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And and then the issue is I would commit to only drinking on the weekend. I'd be drunk by Wednesday.
Right.
And
Well, it
then
didn't matter because I drank. So we'll do that next weekend.
but now there was shame attached to it
Oh yeah.
because I was like I didn't keep to my commitment.
Yeah.
I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And the more I tried to quit, the more I realized I have a real chemical draw here. Like I have a
Yeah.
real addiction. I was like, and my affirmations in the morning, which I was not an affirmation person, but people say, I am strong, I am powerful, I am beautiful, I am love, I am brave. Mine was, I am sober. I am sober. And I would look in the mirror every single morning, and I wasn't telling anybody this, and I would just chant, I am sober. I am sober. And by 11 a.m., I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a drink at lunch. And there is a hotel in Times Square that is super gorgeous. And I would go there every day at lunch by myself, is kind of like where I started to hit rock bottom. Everybody there knew me. I'd go up to their beautiful restaurant on the 4th floor that was full of tourists and me because I knew that I would never see a local there. And I would take my laptop because I was like, I'm going to get some work done. And I would just drink wine at my laptop at this beautiful bar where the glasses of wine, by the way, are like $30 a glass. And
Yeah.
by myself, not even socializing
Right.
anymore. And so this is like a $300 a day habit that I've formed.
Right.
And, and I remember I was just like, is this just going to be my life now? I was like, am I just going to be
That real estate agent?
at the
drunk
bar?
real estate agent?
God. And it scared me because there were other people at the bar who I would look at and was like, oh, that person's an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah,
They're
drunk.
always here.
They're drunk. They're always drunk.
Yeah. I'm like, they're
Yeah.
always here. I was like, and they look so unhappy. I was like, I'm laughing.
Yeah.
And that was scary to me in my head already. And then meanwhile, Vivace was the only person at that point who had put 2 and 2 together because I was a good secret keeper.
Yeah.
And because I was fun. I'm
Yeah.
not like going out and getting drunk and blacking out and falling down. People were like, nobody ever thought I had a problem. They were just like, oh, he's just a guy who likes to go out, but he wakes up and he shows up to the office and he makes his appointments and, things are fine. And that obviously wasn't the real case. And I remember Vivace asked me if I knew how many glasses of wine a day I was having. And I stopped and I was like, I actually don't know. I was like, it's kind of spread out. I was like, I won't lie. I usually have a couple at dinner, or at lunch, and then at dinner. I was like, and then sometimes I go to a bar. And she's like, well, why don't your homework assignment for the week is to count how many glasses of wine you have a day. And so I did. And on average, it was like 12, 13 glasses of wine a day. And I knew that was going to sound like a lot. And so
Tyler, that is a lot.
that's a lot of wine.
Well, and this is the thing, is that if you're being served in a restaurant, it's probably not the 4-ounce glass of wine.
No, especially when you're a regular.
Right, exactly.
Right.
They're very generous because you tip well.
Mm-hmm.
So that 4-ounce glass of wine is really 6 to 8 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not 1 glass, it's really 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember in my head, because the story I was trying to tell myself was like, I can do this for the rest of my life.
This is normal, yeah.
I can drink 12 glasses of wine every single day.
No problem.
And nobody's ever going to catch me.
Right.
I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm going to show people how to do it.
Right.
I was like, because if you do it like me, it's so much fun and you have a great life.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't tell. I was like, I know what that sounds like. If I say Vivace, it was 12. I was like, she's going to think I have a problem. I was like, so I lied to her. And I said, Vivace, I was like, I counted, it's 6 glasses of wine a day. Because I remember I was like, that's normal.
Right.
I was like, and
absolutely.
And the reaction, I mean, I was pretty certain that she was like, the fear in her voice. She was like, you're drinking 6 glasses of wine. Tyler. She's like, do you hear yourself? You're drinking. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, is she okay with this? I was like, is she like fine with this? And this is such a moment in my life. I remember she goes, how would you feel if I told you I drink 6 glasses of wine a day? Your life coach. I drink 6 glasses of wine a day. She's like, would you worry about me? Would you still respect me in this role of me trying to coach you in your life and in your business? She's like, would you think that I'm being responsible and treating myself well and taking good care of myself and, holding my values dear? And immediately I was like, no. I was like, if somebody told me they were drinking 6 glasses of wine a day, I was like, I'd be very worried about them. And I drink 12. I was like, in my head, I drink twice as much as I told you what I drink. And, and I remember it was just like such a wake up call. And I was like, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
But unlike you, this is where I'm so impressed by you. Quitting to me, this was probably about 2 years before I actually successfully quit. And the next 2 years of my life were the 2 darkest years for me.
We talked, remember? You said,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stop. Remember?
Mm-hmm. I remember we were doing a Whole30 together.
Yeah.
This was a dark moment for me. I held it up well, but we were doing the Whole30 together, and in the middle, and a bunch of real estate agents from Tom Ferry were in on it with us, and it was awesome. And one of the reasons I was doing a Whole30, and I had done like 3 that year, was because for whatever reason, that was the only time I could go without drinking for 30 days. And I kept thinking, I was like, and once this is over, I was like, the food part is over, but I'm going to keep not drinking. And I would somehow, most of the time, be able to stop for 30 days. And then, but on day 31, I was wasted. And it was back 10 times stronger.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting any help. And so we were in San Diego in the middle of this Whole30 that everybody knew about. And you and I were making a video in my hotel room.
Yeah.
And I got up there early and I hadn't drank. We're in the middle of a Whole30 where you're not supposed to drink.
Right.
And I got up there early and you were like held up for something. And I got a glass of wine. And I remember being so nervous that you were going to smell the wine on me. We ended up making that great video. I love that video.
One of my favorite.
And we talked a little bit about drinking there. And then we went to dinner afterward with like 10 people.
Right. Oh my God, we had so much fun at that dinner.
And do you remember I ordered a glass of wine and I looked at you and I said, please don't judge me.
Yeah.
And you're like, of course not.
Yeah.
You're like, of course not. And I remember pretending I was fine that night, but there was so much shame in that glass of wine. I mean, I remember just feeling like I had really failed and I had witnesses. And I was trying to lead this Whole30 with these real estate agents. And I was like, little did they know, I was like, this is a real problem for me. And I still don't know why April 15th was the day. April 15th of 2020, which was late. Yeah. So that was January of 2020 we were there. Yeah. And proceeded to have the 3 worst drinking months that I've ever had. I mean, it was just around the clock. And then when the pandemic started mid-March, it even spiraled more. And I was out here for the first time, removed from everything. I always joke that the only way you could get me to stop drinking was to shut the bars down. And I really think the pandemic saved my life. You know, it was the first time that I was removed from every single thing that triggered me. And I quit drinking April 15th, 2020. I didn't actually get sober until November of that year. And, you know, and I haven't had a drink since. Thank God. You know, it's a day at a time. But tell me this. Your life, specifically your business, before and after sobriety.
Oh my God. Well, you know, I always say I'm the Michael Jordan of real estate. I always say I'm the Michael Jordan of real estate. And how I functioned drinking as much as I was is, I have no idea. How I didn't make more mistakes or make terrible mistakes. I mean, I would negotiate contracts. I would talk to clients. I would talk to agents. I remember one time I had been drinking. It's, 7, 8 o'clock at night. This deal is going to fall through. I needed that deal bad. And I slammed my hand on my desk and broke my finger and didn't even feel it. And, but what was, I think, probably to me, what's been most shocking about my journey is that no one ever said anything to me. No one ever tried to stop me. And even the year into it, I was not sure that I was even going to tell anybody that I wasn't drinking, because what if I wanted to go back to drinking?
Of course.
I didn't want to tell anybody because then everybody would know. And if I started back, like, what would they think?
Totally.
And so I didn't want to tell anybody that I wasn't drinking, but I needed to get that out of my system. And I wrote that blog about my journey. And I never, ever, ever thought I would release it. And it was really that call to greatness, that 5 a.m. call. I read it on that 5 a.m. call, and then I posted it. And it was out and it was done. And, you know, we were out here in the Hamptons, and I've never been to AA. I've never been to treatment. Nothing.
Yeah.
And you suggested, you know, hey, would you like to go to this meeting with me? And I'm like, well, sure, that's fine. I don't drink because I'm sober. I'm good. You know,
Totally.
I could absolutely go. I mean, I have no shame, right?
Totally. And I had a feeling you'd like it.
Yeah. And I'm what, 6 years into this? And
Yeah.
I'm good, right? So we go, and you know, I watch, hang out. It was great, no problem, right? And we're leaving, and this lady turns around and says hello to me, and you tell her, oh, well, you know, Glenda's never been to a meeting. Oh, you know, how many days? Like, what's your, what did she say? What was it?
She goes, I could just see she was like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, so you're a newcomer.
Right. Yeah. And you said, no, Glenda's been sober 6 years. Or maybe I said it.
You did.
I said, no, I've been sober 6 years. And she goes, yeah. She goes, it took me 9 years to admit I was an alcoholic. And, you know, I've never identified myself as an alcoholic. And, you know, I knew we were going to cross this bridge with this episode. And I thought to myself, well, this is very ironic timing. And she honed in immediately on the fact that I'd never been to a meeting. I'd never identified myself as an alcoholic. And I thought to myself, why have you never done that? Like, is there still that shame in the label? And I think that what I learned today and what I have learned from you is that there's not shame. There's strength in embracing the label. And so for me, I was, and I told you a little bit at lunch, I said, you know, I'll be interested to see how it comes out, because I work better thinking how things are going to be in my mind. This is how it's going to go. This is kind of how I'm going to curate it. You know, everything in my head is very clear. And I will have to say, I don't know that I would have been able to say that my name is Glennda and I'm an alcoholic, because I had never, ever identified like that. But I would absolutely say that I was an alcoholic. I was falling down drunk in public, drinking to where I couldn't remember anything, and drinking to numb myself from everything that was wrong. And, you know, if I was being honest, it was probably the beginning of the end of my marriage, my road to sobriety. But I think through, my gosh, like my life now, I don't, you know, when I was going through that divorce, I thought if there's ever any time that I'm going to fall, I'm going to slip, this is going to be it. But I didn't. I made it through. Thank God.
Literally, thank God.
Thank God. I mean,
it would be a different story. It'd be a much different story if you were still drinking that way.
Well, do you know what, Tyler? I'll tell you, I am afraid if I ever started drinking again, I don't know that I would be able to pull myself back out of it. Um, it just, I was so uncomfortable. It's just so uncomfortable that I don't know that I would ever be able to stop again. So I would never ever start back.
Yeah. When we were leaving, I don't know if you remember what she said, but I asked her how long how long she had been sober. And she said, I've been sober for 36 years. She goes, but I haven't drank in 45.
Right.
And I just thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, did you ever, I know you said you drank wine a lot. Did you ever drink margaritas?
Tequila was not ever my friend. I mean, I had one Sunday where my girlfriend Leah and I drank bottles of tequila.
How about pineapple margaritas?
Are you fucking with me?
No, that's how I was getting there.
You're like, no, not another story.
I know. I was like, pineapple margaritas. Okay. All right. So this is the only voicemail all season long that I did tee up because I happen to know that this person is a sobriety person. So I think it's going to be a sobriety voicemail, but I haven't heard the voicemail yet. So here we go.
Hey guys, Tyler, Glennda, especially Glennda, of course. This is the sober coach, Bob Marier. I have some questions for you, given the fact that you're both in long-term recovery. And let's face it, the purchase of a house is usually a time for celebration. The business you're in is pretty well wrought with a lot of addiction issues, but my question's twofold. So how do you make sure you put your recovery first, given also that these are extremely long hours, a lot of times when you're not able to take care of yourself, because given that success in anything means how much time am I punching that clock? So that would be the question first, is how do I make time for my recovery, and how do I make sure I safeguard my recovery? As I said, you're celebrating, and people, it's a big deal when you buy your first house, or even when you buy a house, we close, it's fantastic, it's a celebration zone. So those are my questions. Continue the great work, and I hope that my question is good enough to make it to you, through to you guys. Have a great afternoon. All the best.
I love that.
Is that amazing?
That's amazing.
Bob Marier, sober coach.
All right.
So he found me on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how he found me. If he found me from real estate or from the post of my sobriety. And I think that as real estate agents, there is a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
Of alcohol. I mean, I see it. Now that we're
normalized
sober,
it. Normalized
it.
Yeah.
But now that we're sober, oh my gosh. You see Susie and Susie is lit. I mean, you know it. You know it.
I always say, one day she's going to come and I'm going to help her. Yeah. I'll be here when she's ready.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. And, I think that it is normalized in our industry because there are celebrations around the purchase of a home. There's celebrations around that big commission check. And I think that is part of the problem. I think also part of the problem is that, just like for me, nobody ever said, hey, you're drinking too much. And, I think that that's kind of sad, that we're willing to maybe not look after each other. But the celebration of the house is an excuse to drink. It's not the reason that people drink.
Mm-hmm.
They look at that because I give a cake, for my clients. I'm not giving champagne or wine or anything like that. I'm typically giving a cake. But, all of my clients know about my journey to drinking. Everybody that I work with knows about my journey of drinking. And they're very respectful of it. I remember when I first stopped drinking, Victoria was very worried. My kids were worried that I would go back to it. My team was worried that I would go back to it. But I think that, fortunately, I put the right people around me. And I think that I would love as an industry if we talked about it more.
Me too. The two things that I'll add, I second everything you said. One of the reasons I'm so open about my sobriety is so that I don't have to explain why I'm not having a drink.
Right.
You know, I'm like, if we're friends, I want you to know I'm sober,
Right.
so that you're not trying to offer me a drink. I want you to know I'm sober because I struggled with alcohol.
Right.
A lot of people, whenever I quit drinking, they're like, oh, you're so healthy. And I was like, no, bitch, I'm an alcoholic.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. And like, we get it. You take such good care of yourself. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm an addict.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I'm so open about it is because then people support me, you know,
Yeah.
and like I have accountability whenever I'm out and about. He asked how we support our sobriety around these celebrations. This is something I want to put out there for my sober friends who often feel like I'm not going to these things just because I know that still when I throw a party, you know, it's cool to be an hour late. Nobody's showing up right when that party starts. I think the sober people get there when the party starts. We're the welcome committee. We get there. I want you to know that I love you. And when the place fills up, I'm going to ghost. I'm not even going to say goodbye because I want everybody to, I'm not going to be the Debbie Downer of your party and be like, I'm leaving early. You're not going to know I'm left. I was there. I showed my love up front. You know I love you. The party got rowdy. You look like you're having a great, responsible time, and that's awesome. I'm out, you know? And so celebrating the house, I actually think is important, and going there when you can get some quality one-on-one time before things get crazy. That's when you're going to see me. And I think that's the sober way to do it. Show up, show your respect and your love and your appreciation, and then get out when things get big. And, you know, and for me, for my personal recovery, it's got to happen in the morning. You know, like the chaos of a day, and by the end of the day is for me almost always, you know, and whoever I want to share it with, you know, but I'm not going out with 15, 20 people, even whenever I was a big drinker, except for those nights at the bars. But, you know, putting my recovery first at the beginning of the day, that's my medicine. You know, it's mindset medicine, but going to those meetings in the morning gets me in that right space for like, here's how I'm going to process things today. Here's how I'm going to deal with the whirlwind of life and dealing with, you know, life on life's terms. And then I'm going to go to bed happy, knowing that I did my best, that I helped as many people as I could, that I gave the best advice I could, that I squeezed all the joy out of every moment. I'm going to try to do it again tomorrow. I'll see you then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that some like world-renowned sober coach follows me on Instagram and thought enough of us to leave a question.
Voicemail.
I love it.
Well, congratulations. This will be 7 years for you.
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
And you're just getting started.
Yeah.
Look at what's happened for you since then. Look at where you are today.
Look at what's happened to me in 7 years. Changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I really was able to become the Michael Jordan of real estate.
Yeah. And I want the person who is in their late 40s, 50, whatever it is, who thinks like, I've been drinking this long. What's the point of stopping now? Look at Glennda. You're a great example of why it's, you know, you stop when you stop.
Yeah.
In your life.
It's never too late.
It explodes.
It's never too early, and it's never too late.
Amen. I just said your life explodes, and it made me think of that video. All right. See y'all next week, but before you do, you better
subscribe,
rate, and review.
I love it.